Hi, kids. Welcome to another episode of Bible Stories with Your Mom. It has been a hot minute since I have done this stuff. Actually, it has been since I gifted you your books and your little QR code to watch me on Christmas. I have not done any videos since then because we've been busy doing other stuff. But it's good to get back into the swing of things and back into routine. So let's get started. I did a tiny bit of research on names, so I wouldn't look the fool, but we'll see how that goes. So we are on the bottom of page 162, rebuilding the temple. Cyrus, king of Persia, had been on the throne less than a year when he proclaimed that the Lord, the God of heaven, had motivated him to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. He made a decree allowing any willing Israelites to return to their homeland, encouraging those who didn't want to return to give money and supplies. Meanwhile, God was stirring up the hearts of the leaders of Benjamin, Judah, and Levi to go back right away and get started. Everyone who decided not to go helped them with provisions and gifts as Cyrus had instructed. King Cyrus himself even donated the gold and silver trays and bowls that had been taken from the temple by Nebuchadnezzar. Led by, I had to look this one up, led by Zerubbabel, that's how you say it. It's big and long, Zerubbabel. 42,360 Israelites made the trip, and thousands of servants and singers came with them. There were even some who went along but couldn't prove that they had Jewish blood. There were some who claimed to be priests but couldn't prove their lineage. The leaders decided not to let them serve as priests until their heritage could be proven. Hundreds of horses, mules, and camels came along, as did thousands of donkeys. Donkeys. They brought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gold, silver, and priestly robes. The priests, Levites, and some of the common people settled in and around Jerusalem, and the rest of the people returned to the places in Judah from which they'd originally come. In the seventh month of the year, everyone who came back to Judah, oh, hey, by the way, seventh month, seven's kind of a holy number. In the seventh month of the year, everyone who came back to Judah gathered in Jerusalem. Then Jeshua and his fellow priests and Zerubbabel and his family rebuilt the altar on its old site and burned sacrifices on it exactly the way the law of Moses told them to. They sacrificed morning and evening and kept all the special celebrations and rituals, though they were afraid of the non Israelites who still lived in the area. They hired bricklayers and carpenters from among the locals, who were non Israelites, of Tyre and Sidon, paying them with food, oil, and wine. These people helped them ship cedar logs from Lebanon down to Jerusalem, which Cyrus had authorized in his grant. After gathering supplies, the actual construction of the temple began in the second month of the second year after their arrival. Everyone over 20 years old helped out. Zerubbabel, the governor of Jerusalem, and Jeshua, the high priest, managed the project. Once the foundation was laid, they had a big celebration with singing and shouting and cymbal crashing. I imagine those little monkeys with the cymbals. But some of the older people who still remembered Solomon's beautiful temple that had been destroyed mourned. It was impossible to distinguish the weeping from the shouts of joy. Now, when the enemies of Judah and Bethlehem heard the news about the return of the Jews and the rebuilding of the temple, they came to Zerubbabel and other leaders and offered to help. They claimed they were just as interested in the Jewish God as the Jews, saying that they sacrificed to him ever since they'd been relocated by, oh, I didn't catch this one to look it up. They'd been relocated there by Esarhaddon. Esarhaddon. Not sure. The former king of Assyria. Assyria. Again. But Zerubbabel said, Jeshua said no. The temple needed to be built by the Israelites, just like Cyrus had said. So these people tried to frighten and discourage the Israelites by writing letters and sending others to tell lies to Cyrus about them. Cyrus, maybe it's Cyrus. I think it's probably Cyrus, not Cyrus. Cyrus. This went on throughout Cyrus's entire reign and kept going through the reigns of several other Persian rulers. Their tactics finally worked. The king halted the rebuilding. Leaders from around the empire joined together in saying that once the Jews finished their rebuilding, they would stop paying their taxes. To bolster their argument, they told the king to look back in Jerusalem's historical records to confirm that the city had rebellious, seditious tendencies. I'm not sure what seditious means. Seditious. Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. Probably not good. When the king looked, he agreed and told the letter writers to use force to make the Jews stop building immediately until further notice. Further notice didn't come until the reign of King Darius. Finally, when Darius was in his second year as king of Persia, the prophets Haggai and Zechariah preached messages to Zerubbabel and Jeshua, urging the people to get back to work. Soon after they had started up again, Tatini, the governor of the province, demanded to know who had authorized them to rebuild the temple. The governor also made them name names, making a list of everyone involved with the project. But the Israelites kept building until King Darius could personally look into the matter. Tatini, it's so fun. Tatini, that's what I'm going with, told Darius what was happening, including how the Jews had answered his questions. They had told him God had been working through their history, and that many years ago, Cyrus had given them an official order to rebuild the temple. Tattenai asked Darius to look into it himself. Darius did look into it, and after a search of the royal archives, found Cyrus's decree. Darius sent a message to Tattenai, telling him that the Israelites could continue rebuilding. Better still, he had also told Tattenai to pay the cost of reconstruction himself out of the taxes he had raised. He also made the governor donate sacrificial animals and told him to have the Israelites pray for Darius and his sons. Anyone who disobeyed Darius's decree would be hanged from beams pulled down from his own house. The Jews were encouraged and continued to rebuild, finally finishing the temple in Darius's sixth year on the throne. They had a huge celebration and offered many sacrifices. The Passover was celebrated that year, after the Levites had consecrated themselves. Meanwhile, many of the local non-Jewish residents turned from their immoral ways and worshiped the Lord. Now we're going to talk about Esther. In the third year of his rule, I looked this one up too. King Xerxes of Persia sponsored a 180-day royal celebration to show off the great wealth he'd accumulated in his conquests. At the end, he held a 7-day banquet, 7 days, in his garden for every man in his city, regardless of rank. The garden was elegant with white and violet linen curtains on silver rods and marble pillars. There were gold and silver couches on a marble pearl-like floor. Everyone drank from golden cups and could drink as much as they wanted. Meanwhile, Queen Vashti held a banquet for the women of the palace. On the 7th day of the king's banquet, when Xerxes was drunk, he ordered 7 eunuchs to bring the queen, wearing her royal crown, to his party. He wanted the nobles and officials to see how beautiful she was, but Vashti refused his summons. Xerxes, outraged, consulted with his closest advisors. An official named Memucan spoke up. Not only has Queen Vashti wronged the king, but she's wronged all the rest of us as well. When other women hear what she's done, they'll start disobeying their husbands. How dare those women disobey their husbands? What you should do is issue a royal decree saying that Vashti can never appear before you again. Then give her a poison. Oh no, not poison. Shame on you, Jesse. Okay, then give her a position. Let me just start over. What you should do is issue a royal decree saying that Vashti can never appear before you again. Then give her position to a more wealthy woman. Oh, messed it up again. To a more worthy, not wealthy, worthy woman. Okay. Xerxes approved of this plan and issued the decree. Soon his advisors told him that he should start searching for an attractive young replacement. Appoint assistants to scour the provinces for beautiful young virgins. Then have your eunuch get them ready for you to judge. Whoever pleases you will become your new queen. The king agreed. Meanwhile, in the walled city of the king lived a Jew named Mordecai. Mordecai had adopted his cousin had Hadassah. No. Hadassah. Mordecai adopted his cousin Hadassah, also known as Esther. Esther's way better, because her parents had died. Esther was very beautiful and was taken to Hegai, the king's eunuch. She became a favorite of Hegai's, and he gave her special food, servants, beauty treatments, and the best rooms in the women's quarters. Mordecai had also told Esther not to tell anyone that she was a Jewish exile. Every day he walked back and forth in front of the women's quarters to check up on her. The beauty treatment for the women lasted 12 months. 6 months of myrrh and oil, and 6 months of perfume. I bet they were stinky. Once this was completed, the woman would visit the king, with whom she would spend the night. She would only get a second visit if he requested it. When it was Esther's turn, the king loved her more than all the others and placed the royal crown on her head. He ordered a royal banquet in her honor and invited all his officials, even declaring the day a holiday and handing out gifts. Mordecai continued to linger at the king's gate. One day he found out that 2 of Xerxes' eunuchs were plotting to kill the king. Mordecai told Esther, who then told the king. Investigators discovered that what Mordecai had said was true, and the eunuchs were impaled on a pole. This event was documented in the official daily records. Sometime later, King Xerxes promoted a man named Haman to a position higher than anyone else but himself. The king commanded all the other advisors to bow to Haman with their faces against the ground. Everyone bowed except Mordecai. The king's advisors asked Mordecai why he disobeyed the king's command, but he ignored them, so they told Haman. Haman was furious. Rather than kill only Mordecai, he decided to destroy all the Jews in the kingdom to get revenge on him. Haman said to the king, "This is a certain nationality." No, not this. Jesse can't read today. "There is a certain nationality scattered throughout your kingdom that hasn't mixed with the others. They have their own laws and do not obey your commands. You should write a decree to destroy them. I'll even pay 750,000 pounds of silver to see that it's done." The king gave his signet ring to Haman and said, "Keep your money. Do what you like to these people." Oof. Haman's orders were written down, sealed with the king's ring, and sent to all the rulers and officials of the empire. The people were ordered to kill all the Jews, young and old, men, women, and children, on a certain day in their near future, and were told that they could confiscate the property of those that they killed. When Mordecai found out, he tore his clothes, put on a sackcloth, and wept in the streets. Jews mourned in all the provinces, fasting and sleeping on sackcloth and ashes. Queen Esther didn't hear the news at first, but when she heard that Mordecai was in a sackcloth, she was shocked. She sent clothes to him, but he refused to wear them. She called for Hathach, that's what we're saying, a eunuch who served her, telling him to learn from Mordecai what was happening. Mordecai told him and said that Esther should beg the king for mercy for her people. Esther sent a message back saying that everyone knows no one is allowed to approach the king without being summoned. She hadn't been summoned in 30 days. Mordecai answered, "Just because you're in the king's palace doesn't mean you'll be safe either. Even if you remain silent after you and your family are killed, someone else will come along to save the Jews. And who knows, maybe you were placed in your position for a time just like this." Esther sent a message back. "Gather all the Jews in the city, fast for 3 days. My servants and I will fast too. Afterward, I will go to the king. If I die, I die." After 3 days of fasting, Esther put on her robes and went to see the king. As soon as he saw her, he held out his scepter in welcome. "What's bothering you?" he asked. "I'll give you anything, up to half of the kingdom." Please come to a special dinner I'm preparing for you and Haman, she said. As they were drinking at the dinner, the king asked Esther a second time what she wanted. She asked him to come to another dinner she was preparing for him and Haman the next day. She told him that was when she'd tell him what she wanted. Haman left feeling good about being invited to these special dinners, but as soon as he saw the fearless Mordecai outside the king's gate, he became furious. He sent for his friends and his wife. He boasted to them about his riches and his power and the special dinner he was to have with Xerxes and Esther, that seeing Mordecai at the king's gate was ruining everything. Haman's wife and friends suggested that they put up a 75-foot pole and ask the king in the morning to hang Mordecai on it. Haman loved this idea. Meanwhile, when King Xerxes was having trouble sleeping, he had a servant read the official daily records to him. He read what Mordecai had done to save him from the assassination plot. What did I do to reward him for this? The servant answered that nothing had been done. Haman happened to be in the courtyard at the moment, so the king ushered him in. What should I do for a person I want to reward? Xerxes asked him. Haman, in his pride, thought the king was talking about him. He suggested Xerxes give the man royal clothes and the king's horse to parade around the city square as servants shouted that this is what the king does for the people that he wishes to reward. Do this for Mordecai the Jew, Xerxes ordered. Haman did as he was told, but went home in despair. When he told his wife and friends what had happened, they said, if this man is Jewish, you will never be able to destroy him. You will suffer great loss if you oppose him. That evening at dinner, the king asked Esther again what she would have him do for her. She answered, spare my life and the lives of my people. If they were only going to be enslaved, I'd have kept quiet, but they are to be exterminated. King Xerxes interrupted her. Who dares to do such a thing? Our enemy is the wicked Haman, Esther answered. The king was furious and Haman was terrified. As Xerxes left the room, Haman begged Esther to spare him. Falling on the couch she lay on. When the king came back and saw Haman on the couch, it looked like he was trying to rape Esther. This made him even angrier. One of the eunuchs mentioned to the king that Haman had built a tall pole for hanging Mordecai. Hang Haman on it, the king commanded. The servants obeyed by hanging Haman on the pole. The king also gave Haman's property to Esther. She told him that she was related to Mordecai, and so the king met with Mordecai and gave him the signet ring he'd earlier given to Haman. Esther gave Haman's property to Mordecai. But they still had to deal with the upcoming day of evil against the Jews. When Esther begged Xerxes to cancel the order to destroy them, the king told Esther and Mordecai to write a new decree as they saw fit and to use the signet ring to seal it. In Xerxes' name, Mordecai wrote that on the appointed day the Jews would be allowed to defend themselves. The document was sent by messenger on the king's fastest horses to all the provinces. The Jews celebrated. In fact, many other people pretended to be Jews because they were scared of them. On the day that Haman had selected for destroying the Jews defeated their enemies. No one could stand against them because all the people had become terrified of God's people. All the officials and leaders fought alongside the Jews for fear of Mordecai and the power he now wielded in the palace. In every province, the Jews killed those who attacked them, including Haman's 10 sons. Esther asked the king to allow a second day of battle against the Jews' enemies, and the king agreed. He even gave the Jews permission to hang Haman's sons on the poles. The Jews again destroyed their enemies, but they did not take their possessions. Afterward, they rested and celebrated. Mordecai established these 2 days as a yearly holiday to be filled with feasting and giving gifts, especially to the poor. This is the Jewish feast of Purim. So that concludes our episode for today. We are not through the chapter yet, but next time we will be. But I have this little block of wood in my bathroom. I don't know if I still have it there or if I moved it somewhere else, but for many years I had it in my bathroom. And it was a quote of the scripture from Esther, and it says, perhaps, now I've got to try to remember what it says. Perhaps this is exactly what you were created for, or something like that. It was, perhaps this is the moment you were created for. Perhaps this is the moment you were created for. That was like a kind of a quote from Esther. And as you see how it was relevant in Esther's thing, you could see maybe how it can be relevant in your life too. Perhaps this is a moment that you were created for, and you don't know until you shoot your shot. So, leave you with that thought. And as always, never forget that I love you.